Blade shaping and grinding from a salvaged steel fence post. William Hovey Smith, 2017. I'm the owner of a new company, Hovey's Knives of China. And we also have a Billy Joe Rubidoux series where we take salvaged steels from old home sites like this one and we make knives from them.
This is Hovey Smith with Hovey's Knives of China. And we are starting on another one of our Billy Joe Rubidoux knife projects where we take salvaged steels and make a workable, functional kitchen knife from them. With Hovey's Knives of China, we had gone back to ancient China in the Bronze Age and are now producing cutlery out of stainless steel that are as good or better than any in use today. We have several designs of these knives in regular production now on special order. And these are available from our website, which will be at the end of this video. The present work has to do with the Billy Joe Rubidoux line. There are also two things we do there. One, we take old kitchen knives like this that have been in the family for generations but are getting sort of rusted and disreputable looking, and we remanufacture them. We may re-grind the blades, we may refinish the grips, we may in fact put new grips on them and make them fit the user even better than the originals. So you can have grandma's or great-grandma's knife and have it back in good enough condition that you can use it in your kitchen every day and pass it on for future generations. Another thing that we do is take pieces of found steel like this. This was an old tiller point, and we make altogether new knives from them for kitchen and culinary uses. This is our unique design of a paring knife, for example. It is designed to rest flat on the kitchen table with the blade elevated so the chef can grab it like this. It is flat topped, almost unheard of in knives, by the way. And that gives you a full thrust with your knife when you need to really put some pressure on it. Plus, this bulbous portion here fits back into the palm of the hand for ready indexing. We use the same grip on our brand new skinning knife, unlike any in the world. Yeah, long grip, sharp both sides, not symmetrical, flatter on this cut than that one, purposefully so, rounded point so it doesn't puncture the skin, large lanyard loop so you loop it around your wrist, so if you lose this thing on the inside of a moose, you can get it back. Yeah! And if you need to put some real pressure on something to get around and cut around that pelvis joint, yeah, you can do it with this knife. We found us an old place. All that's left was a stone chimney. And the rest of the land was being cleared from all around it. And the chimney probably dates from the 1790s or thereabouts. And we recovered a piece of steel from around the foundation. And it's an interesting piece of steel in its own right. What this is, it is a representative of the first type of steel fence post that was anything like common, and probably from the early 1950s. I would suspect this was either the ground for a lightning rod or a TV antenna. Whatever, it was left and we got it. You'll notice this is most usually like a piece of channel iron. So I had to straighten it out on the forge and you'll see that. We now have it reduced to a flat piece of steel. Now this more nearly looks like a profile of a knife blade, but extremely, extremely rough. And now at this stage is the time to look at it and see exactly what kind of knife we're going to produce from it and exactly how we're going to go about it. This part of the blade right here was actually at about ground level and had the maximum amount of galvanic action and actually removed steel. This is not near as thick in here as it is here. This is pretty thick solid steel. Then it starts tapering from here on back and gets thinner and thinner and thinner towards this edge. It also was pierced with 2 holes, which were originally tie points for the fencing. But we're going to make a knife about this. We're going to give it a tanto point here, a straight back. We're also going to have it elevated off the table like this with a longer grip in the back. And we'll probably have to counterweight it so it'll actually sit upright. So first, this blade has a distinct curve in it in a couple of different directions. It's warped like this because of the original bend in this U-shaped piece of steel. So we're going to have to grind that out flat. We're going to have to grind this taper somewhat even so we can get it in our wooden blocks, by the way, cut from an actual tree. Yeah, and there's the rest of the tree, by the way, if you doubted me. And see what we can do about making a useful blade. Lots and lots of grinding. We've already removed considerable metal. That's what this pile of stuff is over here. We cut this off with an angle grinder. So, we're going to put this in the cabinet grinder and do our initial shaping. Taking this edge off all the way down so we get a flat profile all the way across the bottom. I've now profiled this line, which is going to be the cutting edge of the blade. Now the grip is standing above the cutting edge, which is as I want it to be, because I'm going to extend the handle about this far and counterbalance it so when the blade rests on the surface, it is clear of the surface itself. That also means I'm going to have to remove considerable material from the sides of this blade, both to straighten it up and make it straight, as well as to reduce the overall weight of this end of the knife. So we've got a lot of steel to take off of this thing yet. As anyone can plainly see, we're now getting much further along towards making something that looks like it might someday be a knife. We've managed to get the top profile about right. We've managed to get the blade profile about right. But as you see, there are still a lot of wrinkles and dips in the profile of the blade itself, and it is wavy along the length of the blade. Now, 2 ways to go here. You can put it back on the forge and attempt to straighten it more, or just use the grinder and grind out these irregularities. I'm going to take the grinding technique. We've already subjected this blade to a lot of heat, and there is a possibility of burning the carbon out of it, although it is sparking very, very well indeed. I think this will give a good, sharp, well-holding edge. We've made progress towards reducing these upturned edges like this, and we've almost got this little dish right here ground out. Now I do have this little wrinkle right there, and the choices are to go ahead and remove metal all the way down to this point right here where the bend is, or try a couple of hammer blows and see if I can straighten out this steel while it's still reasonably soft and ductile. Our straightening did pretty good. We got most of it out, but I'm not going to get too excited about trying to get every little bump out right now, because we still got a lot of grinding to do and a lot of material to move. We now have the blade about ground flat on one side. There is still a little bit of bow here, but this is about as close as I can get with a 1-inch grinding stone and feel comfortable without actually starting gouging the blade with a corner or some such. In the cabinet grinder, we have progressed to the point where we have reduced the hump here, which was on the bottom of the piece of channel steel. And in fact, we have a slight concavity here, with a little rise there, a little rise there. Now that will best work out on the flat platen of the belt grinder. Now the edge I have not touched or even started. Why? Well, because I've been doing a lot of handling inside this grinder, and you really don't need an edge to grab right now, although we will start doing a little shaping. On the back and top, yeah, we've got the straight line we wanted. On the bottom, we have the straight line with the grip here. We have the blade. This is actually the cutting surface here, more or less flat. I don't like the shape of the point quite yet. I want it to be a little more acute than that. Come down to about here. So I'm going to grind that while we have it here in the box grinder, because actually the flat platen doesn't do that well, and it's awful easy to catch this point here and rip up your grinding strips. With our knife here, we now have something to start on that looks much more nearly like a knife blank. This is a blank of one of our Hovey's knives of China knives. This happens to be the medium-sized chopping knife, our pepper knife in particular. And we have thinned it now where it was the thickest part of the steel right here at the bottom of the channel. Not quite to where it's to the thickness of the top, which will be the final thickness of the blade, nor have we started to touch the edge yet. We're going to do these on the belt sander. I had reservations about this section here. Was it be strong enough to actually support the knife in the grip? Because the knife is going to have some flex and bend in this direction. And will it fail at the grip? There is enough steel left here that appears to be sound that'll support the grip adequately once we've hardened it. So the next step will be to put this on the belt sander and start evening things up against the flat platen. I'll of course be starting on the coarsest grinding belt I've got to do this rough shaping. And we're going to have some fans going here, so I'll show you a little bit before I start them up. The secret is to do a smooth pass so you get a good grind all the way across and you can really see what you're doing. You still got the blade fairly flat here, but pretty rough on this side. Each time we make a pass on the belt sander, we take a little bit more of this gray area in the middle out, which is this dish that is left in the bottom of that piece of channel steel. So we're slowly getting it down. And so far there are no cracks or anything showing up in the blade. At about this time is when you would see it. There may have been a crack in the original metal that just wasn't visible under all the rust and discoloration before, but it's about this time it would show up. And if so, well, about your only choice is to cut that away and redesign the entire knife. After about an hour's hard work on the belt sander, we have got one side of the blade flat on the flat platen, as well as all of the little dish-shaped indentations and discolorations ground out of it. I'm going to leave these here on the handle. They're going to be hid, so no big deal. Now this is the other side of the blade, which, as you will recall, is the convex side rather than the concave side of that piece of channel iron. And I still have material to take away from it, particularly along this edge right here. Now this edge already has a little bit of a bevel on it, which is good because this is going to be the cutting surface. So we'll remove the rest of it here, get it down to a smooth side, so then we can proceed to actually work on the edge and the top of the knife. Well, this blade that looked so wiggly it might have been a snake crawling through the grass has now been fairly well straightened and flattened. So gone is the dip on the top and the hump on the bottom. So we now have a flat piece of steel, and I'm going to now profile the bottom, this is the cutting edge, as well as the back of the blade, and grind these straight. Then I'll make the final grind with this particular grit on the sides of the blade. I've got just a little touch of dark material that you can see right here in the center. That is a little bit low. So we're going to grind that down to where you don't see that anymore, and then we'll have a uniform flat piece of steel that I can properly edge. We're now getting down to this edge here. Some critical things to note. Notice this sharp notch here. This is the index point on my platen. The piece that's inclined like this, this is where I can index this blade to get this as flat as I can grind it. Now the way you tell is there's always dust on that flat platen, this right here. And so you take the blade and you run it across like that and see how much dust you move. See if you catch it uniformly across the platen as you move it down. You see where the dust scratches are. You don't push hard enough to scratch your platen, but you see where the dust scratches are, and that tells you where the high and low points are. I have done this sufficiently to the point that I can't tell the difference. That is, I'm playing with thousandths of an inch now. So that means I can get a good uniform bevel on this edge when I start actually grinding, and that's going to be the next step here. Now, right on the edge itself, you see this metal sticking up right there? These little humps? That tells you that the steel is still soft. This is the time, if you were to drill holes in this tang, this is about the time you want to do it. You can do it before you actually edge the blade or afterwards. But you've got to do it before you harden, before you do the next heat treatment, or your drill bit won't be able to penetrate the steel hardly at all, if at all, if you do a decent job of heat treatment. And of course we plan to do that. So this is where we are now.
And here is a close-up of the knife as we leave it right now, and we'll pick it up with heat treatment next time around. This is a logo of my company and some of my knives from Hovey's Knives of China. In the Billy Joe Rubidoux series, here is a chef's knife that I made from an old scythe blade, and here is a rib flipper and forge cleaning tools from the bottom steel of an old piece of lawnmower, and here is a rebuilt knife, an old Ontario blade that I rehandled and reshaped for its new owner, and this is a grill tool made from an old hoe. Not all steels are usable for knife making. If you have an old piece, well, contact me about it, and we'll see what we can do with it. For more information on Hovey's Knives of China, you can go to the blog below. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 600 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.